Come here now, girl.
Hi, Bonbon here. City Skylines 2. Good or not so much? Well, it's very easy to come to an instinctive answer when playing anything new. But we need to remember that some of the seemingly awkward mechanics is just us taking time to adapt to the new things. And there will probably be a time when we find the old methods strange and clumsy. With this review, I'd like you to remember that I'm not a general games reviewer who covers a whole host of titles and may only have had a couple of hours exploring the systems of each. Right now, I just hit 100 hours in-game on City Skylines 2, less than 2 weeks after the game released. So it seems like a very reasonable time to answer the questions: is it any good, and is it worth it? Note also, I didn't have early access to the game, so my opinions are that of someone diving in completely fresh and feet first. It has been noted by some that I seem to have some bitterness towards Paradox for this obvious early access omission, but this simply isn't the case. Indeed, if anything, it means I can be more honest and more opinionated about both the good and the bad without fear of losing future perks, such as early access to DLCs and privileged news drops. So, is City Skylines 2 any good, and is it worth the price? The answer, I fear, will depend on at what time in my future you are watching this video. You see, the original game has been completely overhauled, whilst keeping its heart and soul alive. City planning can be played out on many different levels. Want a chilled game, just doodling out roads and watching Sims move in? You can. Want to plan complex urban districts with precision networks and advanced distribution solutions all down to the meter? You also can. The game allows you to immerse as deeply into the experience as you wish, and the new milestone system with development and expansion points gives you multiple routes to shape a successful metropolis. Beyond the fantastic new road tools, the sprawling maps, the depth of business and population simulation, and the level of taxation control, there's still the ongoing burden of traffic management, which seems like a bad thing, but it's not. We now have genuine rush hours, citizens who have actual jobs and pastimes to get to, schools bustling with children, old people but no death waves, all with meaningful life cycles. There are production chains to be fulfilled, which generates even more revenue, which can be reinvested into city development or simply given back to your Sims as tax breaks. And now we have changing seasons too. Map depending, autumn through winter have a completely different vibe than spring through summer. The game does sound good. Now, before the haters start hating on me for saying all is not roses, let's remember these two things. Firstly, I have started off with a bunch of positives and would love to continue gushing with positives until the end of this video. I want this game to be huge, so I can build my channel off of it. And secondly, it isn't at all unreasonable for a launch game to contain bugs and issues. It's actually relatively normal in this current day and age. Sure, when we were buying games over the counter on DVDs, CDs, and for oldies like me, even on audio cassettes, the game had to be complete. There was no download of patches for anything buggy. You had a hard copy, and that was it. But to be fair, games were also simpler back then. Systems had smaller storage capacity and less memory to actually run the game, and so the amount of coding to check through and test was lesser too. With a complex simulation game like City Skylines 2, there is every reason to accept that some bugs or balances will need to be debugged or rebalanced, and I have no problem with this. So yes, The launch game has all kinds of problems. Before I rant, let me say that Colossal Order have been excellent on the most part, since the launch date of the PC version of the game was confirmed not to be pushed back. They have admitted the problems, such as missing their self-imposed benchmarks. They have listened to our feedback. They are explaining what efforts are being made. And new DLC is on hold until the team has fixed any major outstanding issues. This is all inspiring news. Keep up the good work, guys. I have faith in you. As for the bugs, the balance problems, the supply issues which make the game almost unplayable for me, the landfill issues, the lack of character animations such as when there's a multi-house fire, firefighter animations which would tell us which house is being attended to, instead of just a stationary fire truck waiting in the street, leaving us completely unclear as to which household is being saved. Heck, I'd even like to click on the fireman's head to find out who he is, where he lives, and to follow him on Chirper. Then there's the odd design of the map, which means that outside the massive playable area, there are no trees. And land formation out of regular line of sight from the buildable area is somewhat weird, especially when the snow falls. Where are the fallen leaves in the autumn? Where is the dirt, the grime, the graffiti? Wear and tear on the roads can contribute to accidents, and yet there are no potholes or other visual clues to this. And the cinematic camera is somewhat clumsy. For a start, who in their right mind decided to have different movement controls between the game engine and the camera mode? It is literally as if someone who wasn't given access to the main game was handed the camera project and was then left to work unchecked. And I'm only getting started on the in-game camera, which is probably worth a full video to itself. I'll put that onto my ever-growing jobs list. Yes, sure. For every grumble I can name here, I can find something else to praise. And I'm actually working on a video of one of those things next. I'm not here just to get my kicks from slamming the game, I'm here to be honest. And honestly, at the time of recording, in my humble opinion, the game simply isn't ready for release. I actually consider this an early access version. There is simply so much they ran out of time to implement, or to fix, or to discover needs fixing through extended playtesting. And here is the really sad thing. This was all so very predictable. I'm not talking about the gamers in forum chat who state they knew Paradox was aware of the problems months ago, all the while putting forward all the shiny dev diaries, showcasing the magical bells and whistles, doing the job of a polished marketing campaign, whetting the appetite of the existing city builder community. No, this goes back to long before then. And again, before I rant, or gloat, whichever way you want to take it, I do understand that my perceptions here were based entirely on unfounded speculation. They were guesswork, born through life and business experience, and not anything grounded in a career of games development, or any knowledge of coding, or even a behind-the-scenes contact feeding me furtive information. I had none of that. Nothing but gut instinct. So I refer you back to my 12 things I want in City Skylines 2 video, released in May of 2021, almost 2 years before the game was officially even announced. At the time I recorded the video, no one outside the walls of Paradox and Colossal Order knew for sure the game was even in production. But the clues were there. Enough to raise the general assumption from that it might be in process to that it probably was, but we didn't know how far. Based on a whole swathe of assumptions, I came up with a prediction as to the earliest, the absolute earliest, I guessed the game might be ready for release. I followed by saying I didn't expect the game to be ready anywhere near this soon, but I was hedging my bets a little, based on the very little information that we had. So my earliest possible release prediction of May 2023 missed the actual release date by just 5 months. Not bad, you might say. Score 1 to Bonbon. But that was my earliest prediction, at a time when you could probably expect the game to have had minimal playtesting to eliminate many of the issues. I certainly didn't expect it anywhere near that soon. Looking at what we have now, the released game, it is clear to me that the devs needed another 6 to 12 months to have a product which is ready to please. I know the bug fixes, balance settings and performance issues are a priority for the devs, and they are working hard on these now. I applaud their hard work and I marvel at their skills. And I thank them, truly, for all of their efforts. The problem was the decision, however it was formed, to release in October 2023. When the game was announced back in March 23, that date would have seemed a long way away. And I do understand someone has to name a release date at some point, and it will always involve a degree of guesswork. And 7 months at the time would have seemed plenty. The problem is, it wasn't. To me, what we have seems to be 70% finished. It is a very good 70%, and some of that remaining 30% might have been reserved for DLCs. Other than the lack of bicycles, which to be fair was also a DLC in City Skylines 1, I don't really have much of a problem with this. But the core vibe of this game, this potentially almost guaranteed to become an absolute mammoth of a game, has been permanently tarnished by the rushed nature of the release. I know the launch of No Man's Sky isn't a fair direct comparison to this, but many a current gamer just assumes that the game still sucks after all the negative reviews from the release. They say you only get one chance to make a good first impression. No Man's Sky completely blew this. I truly do not know of anyone who wouldn't have waited for City Skylines 2 for another year, while the package was polished and primed and playtested to within an inch of its life. Yes, there would still have been bugs and balance problems and performance issues, but not on the level we are seeing here. I don't blame the playtesters. I don't blame the programmers. I don't even blame the designers. Someone deep in a boardroom took the decision to push this game out in its current state, probably under pressure from someone else holding the purse strings. Clearly, I don't know this. It is speculation on my half. So if you quote me, make sure you quote that too. But it makes as much sense to me as the game launching in October 2023 being bug-free and ready to go, when 30 months before I would have been surprised by such a revelation. So to answer the questions set out in this video, yes, it really does depend on when you're watching this. Underneath the thick layer of unfinishedness, there is a really good game here. So if you're watching this at the time of the release of this video, no, it isn't worth it. Go buy Valheim and Anno 1800. At the time of recording's prices, you'll still have enough change left over from your unspent City Skylines 2 budget to support me on Patreon for a full year. Then come back 6 months to a year, ask me again. By then I imagine the base game will be glowing. So if you're watching this in or after November 2024, I predict yes, it really is worth it. Come in, join the club, build the greatest city ever. And this doesn't even begin to mention the changes modders will bring to the game. I've just been talking vanilla base game stuff here, no more, no less. When the modding community gets let loose, that's when the game will begin to really fly. But for now, while I really want you to buy in to support the developers, and to help drive the game forward with your bug reports and feedback, If the question is, do I really recommend the average player put their hand into their pocket to spend their hard-earned money on a full-price title? I'm sorry, I can't do that. Not yet. If you are a die-hard Skylines player with a system up to the specs required, yes, surely you need to jump on over. Just know, right now, the experience is akin to playing City Skylines 1 with a few select mods, but one of the mods is always broken and you can't quite figure out how to fix it. But as I say, there's a lovely thing hiding under all of this gloom. We just need to let the devs do their thing, and they will. Be patient, be kind, and be hitting the like button, because you've made it right to the very end. So that really is it from me today. I promised that video pointing out one of my favourite aspects of the new game is coming along soon. And so, as to not miss it, make sure you have subscribed and hit the notification bell. It won't be the same without you there. As always, a big shout out to the Bonbon Buddies on Patreon and YouTube membership, whose support really does keep the channel alive. And that is it. Thanks for watching, for commenting, for liking and for subscribing. I've been Bonbon B and you've been very, very welcome.